The entrepreneur Luke Johnson, former chairman of Gail's Bakery, who's also led Pizza Express, Giraffe, the Ivy chain of restaurants over the course of his career. Luke, just listening to what Helen was saying there, the PM has offered these measures as a way of minimising damage to lives and livelihoods. Can that work?
Well, obviously the furlough and rates relief and loans to businesses have made a hell of a difference. And if they're extended, they will help. There are still 3 million people probably on furlough, and many of those jobs are at risk if lockdowns in some form or fashion continue and severe restrictions remain in place.
I mean, we don't think that the furlough scheme as it stands is going to continue.
No.
What should happen then?
Well, it may be that they are simply all the subsidies are cut off, and in which case I would estimate that of the perhaps 3 million, at least 1 million, maybe more, will be made redundant, because I think those companies will be feeling very demoralised and not confident about investing and rebuilding, and possibly they're insolvent. So therefore, they close down altogether.
You think 1 million jobs are going to be lost?
Could be, yeah, of the three that are still, 3 million still on furlough, yeah.
Do you accept that the Chancellor did take extraordinary measures?
Absolutely, and I think the hospitality industry particularly is most grateful. But we were forced to close, Other countries didn't shut their entire hospitality industry, places like Sweden, and I think they've coped better. And we shall see how it ends up for us in the medium term. But I fear that, lockdowns have been devastating for the economy, and the longer-term consequences, the costs in terms of the debt that's now, the 2 trillion of debt that we owe as a country, and the jobs lost, and the businesses shut, and the general damage to investment confidence will take its toll over a longer period.
Would you prefer short, sharp, what they called the circuit break? I mean, would it have been easier to just sort of use 2 weeks to reset?
To be honest, I think that, the whole slanting of the presentation by the scientists this week I'm doubtful. And, when...
Slanting? I mean, they pointed to numbers...
I would say the way in which the graph was shown to grow exponentially. Currently 1% of deaths in this country are from COVID, and we are upending our entire way of life. And it seems to me that, the reactions are not necessarily proportionate.
So when they say we're at a critical point, you don't believe it?
I don't know. But I think that we do have to learn to live with the virus, and this constant effort to suppress it and then it revives again is not going to work. In the sector I'm in, the hospitality industry, only 5% of outbreaks, according to Public Health England, have happened in our sector. And yet we are suffering these restrictions. Again, it seems to me, are these the right measures? We've had so many incoherent and arbitrary changes to the rules.
Yeah, but you're talking about these restrictions as if they were, Armageddon. This is 10 p.m. closing, and presumably, an entrepreneur who's come up against the sort of waves of the market can work a way round,
sure,
a closing time of 10 p.m.
Yeah, but that means really you're not serving meals, after 9 o'clock. So it's actually rather earlier than that. And, if you're asking customers to wear masks in premises, on penalty of fines, and as you heard earlier, it's simply the waterfront of damage. I feel that there hasn't been enough emphasis on the collateral damage of lockdowns, and I mean on education, I mean on damage to the health service apart from COVID in terms of cancer and other patients, the damage to our children's education, the damage of unemployment. And when Boris puts forward new restrictions, there's never any evidence to suggest that they've balanced the emphasis on COVID with all the other collateral damage.
So would you have said, don't wheel out Chris Whitty, Patrick Vallance? Because, they put it fairly starkly yesterday, didn't they? We're at a critical point, and if we don't get COVID under control, then we don't get anything else under control because the NHS is swamped, and presumably the economy suffers as well. I mean, that is all part of the collateral damage, isn't it?
It's one of the aspects of the collateral damage, but I'm not convinced that taking advice only from SAGE is the right route. There should be economists, there should be business people, there should be educationalists and other people, even philosophers, because the mental health harms that lockdown are doing to this country, I think, are incredibly damaging and understated. And an obsession with a disease that currently is killing just 1% of all deaths, accounting for 1% of all deaths. I think, the country has not got it in proportion. And the fear campaign, the anxiety that events of this week, for example, that sort of terrible, endless scaremongering propaganda is one of the big harms.